Hello, and this is the second episode of my series of DMing or changing up the Eve of Ruin book to Eve of Vecna. In this episode, we'll be talking about the first session for us, which was the Web's Edge and Underdark. So, picking up where we left off, I also wrote out my thoughts this time instead of just rambling, so it should be a little bit more concise. That was one of the tidbits that people gave me, so hopefully we're on that. So to start, we pick up with the group after the one shot of Eldritch Eye ended. The obelisk piece shard that they picked up in the catacombs of Nimbus reattaches itself to the obelisk in the library of Nimbus. The place, I'll put a picture for you up here. I designed Nimbus just to be a one shot and kind of made use of it. But the ward that they're in is the Elysium ward. It's where all the rich people live. It's where the king, it's basically the castle of this flying city. So they're in Elysium on Nimbus. And they just finished up Eldritch Eye. They just got their visions, and Alestriel and Mordecai are like, okay, well, that's some weird thing. So we're going to take you to Sigil now. So they walk through the portal that Alestriel makes, taking them back to Sigil. This is the second time, but like in a couple hours. So they're still in awe and wonder of it. And Alestriel put out the call to Tasha, and the background of this. This is also where we get our kind of big lore dumps for Vecna and evil entities adjacent. So the big lore dumps of Vecna, he defeated the Circle of Eight. That's why Mordekainen's kind of like frightened of this. And then lore accuracy wise, that's a weird phrase. But in my canon, the Vox Machina fight with the Whispered One is also canon. I felt like that was the only way to, one, tie in Exandria. It makes a lot of sense. We're all fans of Critical Role, so I was like, why not? But two, really, that was like the last time we saw the Sword cast. I could be way off base on it, but from looking things up, it was kind of like an unknown quantity of like who has the Sword of Cast type stuff. And I haven't read all the way through this yet, so it might be in here somewhere. I know it's listed, but I wanted to tie in Exandria, so that's where we're pivoting to. Exandria has the Sword of Cast. This is also where we get like, Vox Machina beat him last. This is where we get Cass. And kind of, being the former general turned on him because of his sword, and he's out for vengeance essentially, or so we think. So that's where they kind of get all that info with the players and setting the stage for what potentially is happening. We get a little smidge of like Archon the Cruel, and just like little things to like start peppering it in and being like, okay, you'll recognize this name, just in case you do meet him. So this is where the wish spell happens that's in the book. So Tasha has been summoned. In this version, I'm sticking with it where it's not Igwiv. It's Tasha from a different time, like earlier in her own history, but still a very powerful witch in her own right. So she's coming to help out. Alestriel puts out the call, and she shows up in the sanctum on Sigil. They basically tell the party, hey, this is going to take a little bit. Why don't you guys go and check out Sigil? And we'll kind of we'll reconvene here in a little bit. We're going to try to put a stop to this immediately, because the things that you have told us about the Cult of Vecna and stuff like that, and seeing him, are obviously worrisome. So After a little shopping spree, I got a great kind of shop list on Reddit of like just different like names of shops on Sigil that they could explore. They used the carrying to get through the city just quickly, kind of like just fast traveled it. But they went to different shops. Um, Went to a kind of potions shop to get some potions, um, some like greater healings, and then um, where else did they go? Oh, they went to a weapon shop. They were kind of looking for just whatever's available, and this is where I kind of put myself in a corner, being a DM, first time. I gave, you know, cool shit out like candy. But in my defense, I was like, well, we're on Sigil, where literally everything is. I can't really like say no, you can't find that here. So I was like, yeah, you could find that, but I kept upping the prices a bit. I did get duped on one pricing for a belt of fire giant strength. Um, but in my defense, they would be able to get everything if, and Alestria was like putting it on her tab essentially. She's like, go get your stuff. I know you're not like uber rich. Gold's not really gonna matter much. It does and it doesn't, but you know, it's a whole thing. Um, put it on my tab if you find stuff that you need, and drop my name if like they don't believe you. So they kind of went into Sigil and started getting stuff. They paid for some stuff. I will give them credit for that. They didn't just like put, you know, a bunch of tabs out to Alestriel, which is nice. We meet our heroes back at Sanctum. It looks like the Wizards 3 are preparing a spell of some sort. They kind of let the group know that, hey, we're going to do a wish spell to just immediately nip this in the butt and dispose of Vecna as quickly as possible. Unbeknownst to them, the shadow aspect of Vecna that appeared in Eldritch Eye went to the Shadow Dark. I mentioned this in the first video. And he went to Asarak's tomb to get his Book of Vile Darkness. I'm using it as a plot device, also kind of like, not really plot armor, but plot armor. He has the book, and that essentially dispels the wish spell, or counterspells it in a sense. Because he needed one of his objects. He's very, very powerful, obviously, but like if you just wish something, there, like, I didn't want it to just be like, well, it didn't work. And the reasoning for the wish spell in the book, spoilers if you're gonna run, well, not spoilers, because we're doing something different. I was gonna say spoilers if you're running this like verbatim, but like, I don't think a lot of people are. The reason it doesn't work, or semi works in the book, is that Mordenkainen is cast in disguise, which is super. It is what it is. Mordenkainen in this is Mordenkainen. The wish spell happens. At this point, the whole party's there for visual representation, but really only two people are at the table. Words. So the wish spell happens. The group is kind of sitting like back. I'll put up a map of the sanctum, what is actually given in the book, which is nice. They're kind of like sitting back on some couches, you know, just hanging out. We can't do any wish spells. We're level 10. So they're hanging out while the Wizards 3 are about to do this wish spell. And it starts happening. You know, the room becomes glowing with arcana. You know, yellow and white lights start flickering around all three of them. And then, instead of, you know, any like bringing Vecna to them or something, or like getting told that it happened, the party starts getting swirled around with arcana and lifted up off the couch and then just teleported to the middle of the room of the Wizards 3. So they only teleported like 10 feet, but a little different than in the book. I think in the book they all get brought from like different planes of existence. Like that'd be a great way for DMs to like bring in characters and for players to like make whatever they want to do. I have somebody coming. Our DM is going to play in this one at a later point once we carve some time out, and he's going to play a satyr. He was toying between satyr and turtle, so I was like, okay, cool. So like, we haven't seen any satyrs in our game. We've seen one turtle, but it can come. His character can come from a different, realm. So that's what the really nice part about Sigil is. You can find anything and anyone. I really enjoy that plot device where if I need a thing, just go outside. It's in Sigil. After this wish spell happens, because I won't say it's not successful, and I won't say it's, successful. It's kind of blocked, but it also still works in the sense that like it brings the Wizards 3 what can stop Vecna, essentially. The cosmos or entities above put these guys in front of the Wizards 3 to be part of the plan. That's the rationale behind it. So that happens. Mordenkainen's kind of like, okay, if we're going to have to roll with this, describe to me again what you saw in the vision. And they described that they saw caverns and they saw like glowing fluorescent, mushrooms and flora. And then they saw a web with like 8 spots or 8 sides, 8 little star thing in there. The symbol of Lolith. That's what they see. Sorry. Just, foggy brain. So with that information, Mordenkainen is kind of like, okay, I have heard rumblings of a place called Webb's Edge in the Underdark. It's where the Drow and worshippers of Lolith go to like plan out their attacks before they go out into Faerun or the Forgotten Realms, or into the Underdark or wherever they're going. It's kind of their meeting point. It stands to reason if you're getting a vision, something is there. The group also gets a quick glimpse of the top piece of the Rod of Seven. Mordenkainen is full on board. Like, that's it. That's how we got to do this. If the wish spell didn't work, but you got visions about how he's going to do everything, and potentially how to stop him, the universe is in our favor. We're going full on at this. So that's how we get the vision and start heading towards Webb's Edge. The portal opens to the Underdark. Alestriel, I've just been saying, taps her staff twice and just a portal appears. As we dive into other games, I think I'm going to have her do research in the background or kind of feel out those places that they describe and make sure she can like pinpoint where she needs to go instead of just saying, yeah, open the door and you're there. That's a little odd because that just means that they could, teleport really wherever from Sigil. But if the Lady of Pain is kind of being a stander by and allowing that to happen, I'm not going to make it canon, but like I like to think that she's allowing that to happen and kind of like nudging them in the right direction, because it wouldn't, like, the gods would know, like, as soon as Vecna hit the material plane, they would be like, oh, this bitch. So that's why I'm kind of like, in my head canon, I'm not sure if I'll divulge it to the table, but like she's helping, but she's not helping. She's like giving you a place to have your headquarters and kind of nudging you along, but the nudging is also because these characters are connected to Vecna because Vecna did some Vecna weird stuff. We open outside this Underdark hideout. It's pretty much described just as the book. They see some double doors and some like armor. sitting around. My players immediately fell for there's a shiny thing over there. Uh, like two hands are like covering over some uh, looks to be like rubies or something on the ground. Like two suits of armor, skeleton, you know, dead armor. Like they're fighting over it and they're holding on to it. Um, so they immediately went for the shiny thing, which I was just giddy about because I was like, oh god, because it was like 12d10 or something. It was ridiculous. It was a booby trap and it exploded in one of my characters' faces, and I was like, oh, and it about killed him. So I was like, yeah, let's not just go gung ho to grab the first shiny thing we see. And they kind of held off on going that route after that little encounter. They've been a little bit more cautious from this and the little piece that we started into Barovia. So we walk into Web's Edge. I'll try to find a map of like the Web's Edge. So they immediately walk in. For this encounter, since I only had two people at the table, I made Web's Edge as if they just got done doing some planning and they just left. Like they just missed the bulk of the troops in Web's Edge. They head in. They take their first left. Nothing's really about. There's just skeletons and some like glowing fauna sitting around. They do start hearing some voices in one of the meeting rooms, map room. They see a couple of drow and an Aaron Yes discussing, so they think, discussing battle plans of some sorts. They decided to avoid that as they cast invisibility on themselves and snuck around the entire hideout instead of engaging in anything, which I kudos to them because I was like, yeah, I would do that too if I had that ability. They see a glowing summoning arcana circle on the ground. In the book, this is where one of the random encounters would be, where one of the mages like summons like Glabrezu. Obviously nixed that, but I still wanted to give the impression that they just missed something. Like it was still like steaming arcana from the ground, and there's still magic in the air, so to speak. Magic in the air. Sorry. So that's where they're heading. They're kind of just checking out the chambers. It's a windy cavern. There's a lot of different areas to kind of look at, but it's also very much like we come here, we talk, and then we go. So there's not like treasure at every single spot. They head into one of these two main chambers and they start doing some looking around, and it looks like it's a kind of a dead end. But they also see on the wall that there's like clearly a kind of more flush side of the wall, and they make a perception check to see what that's about. And of course a secret door opens. Not so secret because like the people in Web's Edge like know about it, but like for the newbie, they wouldn't like know about it. So they go into this big chamber full of cobwebs up to the ceiling. It's kind of a wrapped around area in this cavern. There's stalagmites everywhere, and there's kind of like this central stalagmite with like what looks to be some prodding bars or something behind it that don't look natural. And then they start walking in, and this is where the spider dragon fight happens. I didn't name it, but I realized afterwards when I was looking at it and doing stat blocks for it, I was like, oh yeah, this thing had a name, and I just never said it. So, oops, it's in the book. The only thing I did with this is I added some more hit points to it, obviously, because my guys were kind of still strong for just being two people. I did the DM thing of like, oh, this battle's going like really, really fast. More hit points. So the spider dragon kept climbing on the walls and the ceiling. It would shoot down its web. It would stick them. It hit, I think, 3 for 3 times. It hit both of them. And then they would get out of it. They would Misty Step or something. I had the 3 drow that they saw come in at one point, when they were really hurting the spider dragon, to give them a little bit more to mess with. Basic drow fighters, nothing crazy. For 2 people, they took care of them in like a round, I'm pretty sure, just to divert their attention a little bit. It was looking a little rough, but not like hit points wise. They were doing pretty well. I wanted to gauge it where we went through at least 2-3 rounds. I think we went through 4 rounds. We started on the 4th round, maybe even 5th. I didn't track it super well. I was more playing it by ear and how much fun they were having to, trying to get a plan together. I want to say 4 to 5 rounds. At that point, Illustrial teleports in. I stole this from D20 Play when I was looking up information for it and how people ran things. I already knew going into this that Cass was not going to be Mordenkainen, but I did like that he had the Crown of Lies and he was kind of just sulking around and doing stuff in the background that they didn't really know about. Illustrial teleports in and immediately like kills the spider dragon in like 2 shots, with her stat block from the book, which really isn't like super. I mean, it's super impressive for like level 10s to see that kind of power, but it was like we did her reproving ray twice, for like base like 65 damage, force damage. Now obviously that's like pretty good for like just a one-off, like doing the moderate amount of damage. She did it twice, killed the spider dragon, kind of was like, are you guys okay? They make their way into more of the chamber, kind of like leads into a cavern, and there's like one of the pillars, kind of looks like it was supposed to be like a weird pillar, not a pillar that was like man-made, fell over across this ravine. But before they get there, they see a chest with and they're getting a faint aura of something, and from their vision they can deduce that obviously it's important what they were here for, and they acquire the first piece of the Rod of Seven. Hooray! Just sitting in a chest, hanging out in the Underdark. So they grab that. They're like, all right, let's bounce, let's leave. And Lestriel's kind of like, there's something not right here. This is the portion that I took from D20 Play. I thought it was a great way to integrate Cass into the story a little bit more, as well as like make use of Illustrial, and hopefully I'll kind of keep doing this obviously as we go with the campaign with like Mordenkainen and Tasha and stuff. But she gets a feeling like something's off. She does Silver Fire and she gains True Sight for an hour. So she starts seeing that like something's going on, and she sees through. She kind of just sees that there's something happening a little ways up the way. They head into. I don't think I took a picture of this. Dang it! No, I didn't. I did take a picture of this. Over there. I was kind of impressed with. Side tangent. I was impressed with one of our players bought the pack for the Underdark that we use. We use these box tiles. I think they're Warlock, or I'll have to look it up and I'll put it in the description. They've been great. We have like some sewer ones. We have like some regular like kind of cobblestone like dungeon hallways, and now we have these Underdark ones that really gave the ambiance of being in the Underdark and like some spooky times. It was very cool. It was one of those map making moments where like it just kind of kept leading this way. I was like, dude, I was impressed with myself. So pat on the back for me. But they also enjoyed it as well. Just like throwing something together in your mind was like, yeah, it's like this big cavern and you're heading this way and you see it opening, and then it kind of goes up higher, and there's this big pillar that fell down. And luckily, we've acquired enough stuff throughout this last year and a half or so that we're able to kind of like make those things a reality. And I'm very much a visual player. Like if we have the ability to do it visually, I'll do it, because I played online for like 2 years, and maps online are great, and like Theater of the Mind is great, but like having like once we started this campaign, our main campaign, I was very adamant about having like minis and like maps and stuff, and I've kind of been the one spearheading getting a lot of that stuff, but it's also because I like to make that stuff and I like to paint that stuff, so it's something for me to do like tactile. So that's why we do it. But still, nonetheless, Theater of Mind is great too, but like at our table, we really enjoy when we can like put something visually on the table so we can get an understanding of what's happening. Tangent over. They start heading towards this cavern, and they walk across this like pillar bridge that fell over, and they see the Aaron Yes from earlier chanting into the void of like a black hole that is covered with cobwebs. And immediately they hear a man's voice, and he kind of turns around, turns his head. He's like, I was wondering if you were going to catch on to this game. And immediately, like kind of like a screen wipe just like fades off of him, and we see Cass standing there chanting into this cavern, this giant hole. They don't know what's happening. So he kind of monologues for a second. You know, when I heard he was back, I couldn't believe it, but sure enough, I need to stop him. And I will stop him this time. So it's kind of playing into that enemy of my enemy is my friend. Illustrial's kind of like starstruck in a sense at this point. She's kind of like, oh, Cass is here. Like, we're not supposed to, like, what's going on? Like, she just didn't know. She kind of like, what's the phrase? Analysis paralysis. She was just like, well, what are we going to do? Like, he's a general of Vecna, and he's a fucking vampire. They got the lore dump, so they kind of know who he is. My players immediately start throwing stuff at him, and he just kind of sits there. He does a repose that they have in the book that raises his AC, so he just kind of like knocks it off. I think he eats one shot, and one of our characters, Forrest, runs up at him and tries to engage with him. I didn't have them roll for initiative yet. They just got out of initiative, so this was all very much storytelling, free flowing. So there was an initiative in this, but Cass immediately like stabs this guy twice in the gut, and then he's kind of like hunched over, has his sword like up by his neck, and he just moves slightly just to like give him a slight line right there. So he's kind of toying with them as well, which I'm trying to invoke that throughout this campaign so far, of like, you guys are not ready to take on, you know, Vecna's height of power and deities yet. We need to get there at some point, but we're not there yet. Like, so they're going to keep running into this type of situation of like, we didn't win. They kind of let us go instead of like, we beat them. Which I think is a fun thing to do for the story, and also like gives them a goal of like, well, we got to get more powerful. We have to. It gives them incentive, not only to like the overall arcing plot of we got to beat Vecna, but like, I want to take out Cass. I hate that guy. So Cass kind of toys with him a little bit. As he has a sword on Forrest's neck, he changes again into Mordenkainen, giving a little nod to what the book wanted to do with the Mordenkainen being Cass thing. But that's all it was going to be. I just wanted to like throw it in there to like mess with them a little bit, to get them thinking like, is Mordenkainen actually Mordenkainen? So he kind of toys with them, and then the summoning, he said the magic words, and we see this Spider Queen Lolith kind of emerge, mainly just like the front part of her, um, and from this, and she doesn't say anything, but like Illustrial's immediately like, we're getting out of here, and they teleport back to Sigil off of the broken pillar. They get back to her and they're out of there. So we get back to Sigil. I keep saying Sigil and Sigil. You know what I mean. Sigil. Um, we get back there, and immediately the party is like looking at Mordekainen like, are you him? Like, are you really him? And he kind of deduces that if he tricked Illustrio, then he has some object that is letting him change, because that's not in his repertoire. So they think. In the background of all this with the three wizards, they're pretty much doing like research and reconnaissance through people they know to like get information to help these guys out, is how I'm kind of playing it with everybody. That them being here, obviously they're still going to help in some situations, depending on when we run things. If people can't be there, I have avenues to play kind of an NPC, whether it be Illustrio, Mordekainen, or something. I think that'll be fun, just to like be with them, but they're also there to like give them the lore. So after Mordekainen's getting questioned by the party, Tasha's kind of there. They're all kind of just like hanging out because it was rather a quick mission, realistically. And they kind of drop to their knees and they kind of go into that trance-like state again, and they get a vision of not one but 3 different destinations. I wanted to put this in here so that the party could kind of choose where they wanted to go next. So in the book, the next destination is the Astral Sea. So I described like this giant celestial being, it was a being, but now it's like all bones, like miles long, just floating. And they see some ships floating, and then they see like one ship kind of lodged in the body, and that's like really all they saw. They also saw a little quick snippet of Eberron. They just saw like a colossal Warforged Titan, and they saw some like cogs and whatnot. And then they get the vision of Barovia, where they see a castle on the hill. They see this very gothic town covered in fog. And they see a house of death. And I think I described, we're going to replay it. I kind of messed up because we ended at a like 3.5 hour time, and our table's kind of used to playing 4 to 5-ish, like pushing 4.5, somewhere in there on Friday nights. So I was like, well, we can keep going, I guess. I'm just gonna read it from the book anyways. Quickly realized that was a rookie mistake, and I should have read more of the book first to understand like the mechanics of things. I could describe the setting and everything like that. That's fine. But when we kind of sneak peeked the death house and how things operated, I was gone. I think it was tired because long day, but also I was like, I don't know what we're doing here, because I kept going back and forth between pages, and I was like, that doesn't make sense here. So I was like, you know what, guys, we're gonna call it here, because I want to do this justice and I want to do it right. Next session we'll start back in Sigil. I got it that time, with hopefully more of the party, and then we can go from there, and I can run this section of it properly. Obviously I made my own changes to it, but that was after the fact, when I got to run through everything and kind of got a lay of the land of that chapter in Barovia. So I'm excited for that chapter. But this wraps up Web's Edge in the Eve of Vecna campaign. Again, only had 2 players, but they had a blast. I hope you enjoy the maps that you see throughout this. So the next episode at some point in time will be Barovia, whenever we get to that session, and I'll kind of do a rundown of that as well. But yeah, I hope you guys all enjoy these. I enjoy making them. It's also just a way for me to like word vomit to people in the ether, instead of my loved ones that are like, yeah, we get it. It's D&D. I get what you're doing. And I'm like, no, but like this connects to this, connects to this, and then they're going to do that. And they're like, yeah, okay, cool. So it is an outlet for me creatively to just talk and not feel like I'm just talking to nobody, even though I am. But it's okay. It's okay. So I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you.